Hello and welcome to this training on using Trello for lesson planning. My name is Scott Mosby. I'm out of Sallisaw High School. And this lesson will be broken down into two parts. First half is an introduction to Trello and how to use it. And the second half is looking at strategies to use Trello for lesson planning. So let's get started. Now, one of the best things about Trello is that it's free. You can use this free forever, and this is per user. You can have unlimited personal boards, cards, lists. You do have a limited amount of file attachments, but there's some workarounds with that in terms of using Google Drive and Dropbox and OneDrive and all of those cloud-based storage solutions. And of course, you have the business class and the enterprise. Now, I am personally using a Trello Gold account, which actually is a little bit difficult. It's not on the pricing, but when you sign up, it's available. So, for example, and once you sign up for an account, there's an option over in the settings where you can upgrade to a Gold account somewhere in here. I don't remember exactly where it's at, but basically you get this little golden crown thing, and what it essentially does is that it essentially will give you a few more features that is not available on the standard account, but it doesn't give you as many features nor the price point of the business class account. And I only recommend using the Trello Gold if you've been using Trello for a little while and you realize that you want to stick to it and you want to have some extra features. In particular, the feature I was interested in were adding power up to my board, and I'm going to talk about the power up towards the end of this presentation. So you'll need to sign up for an account. Of course, you can use the Google or Microsoft sign-on system, or if you already have an Atlassian account, you can use that. Atlassian purchased this not too long ago, so this is relatively new. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to create a new board, and notice that I have two areas here. I have a personal area and I have a team area. Whenever you sign up for an account, it's going to ask you to set up a team. The difference is that on personal boards, those are just for your eyes only, for your use only, and the demo or the team board are for collaborating with other users. So this only works for other Trello users. So if you're going to use this with with fellow instructors, they will need to have an account as well, and then you can work together on projects. I'm going to go ahead and just create a team board, and when you do that, it's going to give you an option to type in the name, and I'm just going to put in demo, and of course you can change the color. I'm not real big on images for the background, so I'm going to pick something the default blue color, and you can change the settings here for private, which is basically like providing a link to your board. You can set it to public for anybody on the internet can find it. I'm just going to leave it on team just for now and just go ahead and create a board. You can also start with a template, and there are some template boards out there where they've already kind of created the board. Once again, I'm just going to start with a create a board, and this is going to be the default board. Now, Trello uses the Kanban system, and the Kanban system, and you're going to quick Google search, image search for the Kanban system, you can kind of get an idea of how this operates. So what it essentially does is you create a board and you have your little cards. Your card could be post-it notes, that could be index cards, and then you write the notes on the cards, and some of them are color-coded, and then you move the cards through the progression. So you have a to-do, you have in progress, and you have the done. That's overly simplified, but the Kanban board is can be as in-depth or as simple as you want it to be, and it's pretty effective, really. And what I like about Trello is that it's a digital tool that you can use to use the Kanban system, and I think that really helps out when it comes to creating. So the default layout here is that Trello will give you a to-do list. These are lists right here, and this blue area is the board. Okay, and you can have multiple boards, and we'll add another board here in just a moment, but the first list here is to do. So maybe the first thing we need to do is create a lesson plan. So you can type it in, hit enter, and then it's going to go down to the next row or the next card, and we need to create a handbook for a classroom. And you can add cards to each one of these. So I'm going to add one for doing. I'm making a tutorial video for Trello, what I'm doing right now. And then we have done. Now, the cards here are movable. So you can move these cards around, and that's what makes it such a great tool for using the Kanban system, is this ability to move them around. The other thing that makes this great is that even though I have a lesson plan here, if I click on the card, it's going to pop up the details of this card. Now, this is, you can think of this as a metaphor of using a 3x5 note card. So maybe on the front of a 3x5 note card, you have lesson plan, and then when you click on it, it's the other side of the note card where you have the details of what it is you need to do. So you can enter a description here. Go ahead and hit save. And then once you do that, you'll notice that there is a little icon here that says this card has a description. Here is the activity. You can make comments here. And you can add the watch the card for update, which I don't do, and go ahead and hit save. And basically what this does, it allows you to make comments on your progress on this card. I'm the only user on this. I'm gonna go ahead and hit delete. And that's totally optional for you guys, and add an activity. That way you can kind of keep track with what you have going on with this particular card. But this is also great for teams. So if you're working in a group with a group of teachers, you can share this information, and then as people make progress, or if they find out information or whatever, they can make comments on your card and see where you are in regard to that lesson. Now let's go ahead and look at some of the other things inside of the back end of a card here. First off, you can add members to the card. So if you have other Trello members that you would like to have access to the card, you can make them a member of the card where they can edit it. So if I were to add a member, because this is my school account, this will shoot this person an email notifying them that they have been added to this board. So I'm not going to do that, but it will send them a notification. This is labels here, so you can create labels, and I'm going to get into this a little bit more later. But basically with labels here, you can add all of these labels to a card, and then you click it again to unadd the labels. You can edit the labels. So on this label, maybe this has something to do with curriculum, and then maybe the yellow one here, I can edit this one, and this has something to do with classroom management. So you can create these labels, and you can have more than one label per card. I'm gonna go ahead and click off of here, and you'll see it up here. So I'm gonna go ahead and just turn these off, because I'm gonna show you a little bit later how I like to use these. You can actually delete them as well. And then when you delete them, notice what it did. It removed the green label. So I can just add the green and leave it blank again, just like that. It's pretty intuitive. I mean, Trello has made this pretty intuitive for the most part. There's some things in here that's a little wonky. We'll talk about that a little bit later. The other thing you can do here is you can create checklists. So with the checklist, maybe I have a lesson plan checklist for, let's just say, multimedia. Task 1, task 2. And then I can also add multiple checklists. So I can have one for desktop publishing. All right. And once again, I can have these lists here. And so the great thing about this is that once I have these added here and you check them off, it will show you your progress on these. And you can hide them, you can delete them. But also, it shows you there is a 2 out of 5 items checked on your list, on the cover of the card there, okay? You can apply a due date, and I've heard that you can tie this into Google Calendars. You can call it in the iCal. I personally have never used that, so maybe that's a feature you'd be interested in. And the attachment feature, this one is outstanding because what you can do with the attachment feature is add links to documents, those on your computer, Google Drive, Dropbox, OneDrive, and you can also link them. So if you find a great resource online for a lesson plan template, you can add that link here and it will attach it to this card. And that's really what we're going to use later on to help create lessons. This button right here is a cover. Now this is a relatively new feature, but what this would allow you to do is color code your cards. So if you want your lesson plan to be, let's just say this blue color here, you can also change the cover here at the top to blue, and you can see over here on the side it's now blue. But you can also add images, and you can upload your own images, or you can use the images and search for images. Use it to however you feel is best. Power-ups. Power-up is where, like I mentioned earlier, this is where I upgraded to gold. You get one power-up per board, and this is great. Power-ups are a lot like add-ons, or extensions. So if you want to add some features that are not presently available and natively to Trello, you can use these add-ons. And there's some really great stuff. They've got them categorized here. Some of the add-ons that I like to use, I use the Google Drive add-on, and I love the custom fields. This is probably the one I use the most because the custom fields, you can play around with this and see what this does. I'm not going to get into this right now, but essentially what it does, it allows you to add more options to your cards. So as you're looking at the cards, you can provide more details and things like that. So those are the power-ups. I'm going to go ahead and close the power-up menu here. And then here are the actions. So as you complete a card, you can move the card. You can move it to another board. You can copy. You can make a template. So once you have a card set up, you can make that card a template, and then you can make the card from a template. So for example, if I were to make this a template, we'll just go ahead and just do that now. Notice now there's this little create from template. If I click this button, it's going to create a new card based on my template that I already created. All right, now this was actually a bad one, so I wouldn't use this one. If you have some special formatting and things like that you want to use when you're creating your lessons, which we might look at a little bit later, you can create it using templates. So the next feature is that now that we have learned how to create, you can create new lists here. And I'm just randomly picking something. You can create as many lists as you want. The next thing is how to create, we're going to create another board, and we're going to make one for lesson planning. Now I'm back here on the Trello home screen. You can get there by clicking the home button right here. And you can create multiple boards, as previously mentioned. Whenever it comes to lesson planning, I'm not going to go into specific strategies on how you, lesson planning in Trello as much as I just kind of want to give you some ideas on how you might can start using Trello for lesson planning, and you can kind of use it however you wish to. So you can use these boards, for example. You can create multiple boards for multiple subjects or preps. So if you teach some multimedia and image management, desktop publishing, fundamentals of technology, you might have a board for each one of those preps. You could also go a step further, and instead of maybe having boards for each prep, you could have boards for each program that you're teaching. So if you're wanting to teach Photoshop, have a board for Photoshop and have a board for Adobe Illustrator. Now that's something I had done last year, was I had a board just for Photoshop and I had a board for Illustrator. I also had a program board for 412 BPA, any type of BMIT duties and things of that effect. So I'm going to go ahead and just create a new board, and you're going to get the option to name the title of your board here. And let's say I just named this board after my classroom website, which is Mosby Tech, and then I just assign it a color. You also have more options here and to see more, not a whole lot, and you also have more photo options. Now if you're a gold member of this platform, you can actually upload your own colors and your own photos to it. And that was, I know it's kind of silly, but that was one of the reasons why I went with the Pro, because I can control the colors a little bit better. So I'm going to go ahead and just select a gray color here, and then you can also set it to a theme, and you can also set your visibility. Now this will be my program board. So what I mean by that is this will be where I will keep up with all of my career tech information and just general classroom things that don't necessarily pertain to a specific subject. I might have a board for procurement, for 12 funds. All right, add list. And then I might have another one here for we might call it operations. It will be where I put maybe my handbook, my rules and things like that. And let's do one for BMIT and BPA. And then we'll just start with that. And you can add more boards as you go along here. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and have one more. We'll call this ideas, notes, and miscellaneous. Oops, I keep forgetting to hit the add list button, and go ahead and click that. And then once you have your list here, you can move them around if you want to get them in the order that works best for you. Another trick on this is that if you're using, I'm using Google Chrome. If I right click here, I got the emoji option. I can add an emoji to give it a little bit more visual, a little bit more pop. So that is something that helps me as well, to be able to kind of see what it is that I'm doing here. So I just went ahead and just caught up my program board as it is currently. And as you can see, I have all my lists and I have all my cards here noted on here. Now you might notice a couple of things on here. That's because I've got an add-on that does this type of stuff. I'll talk about that as I go along here. But basically what I like about this for a program board is ideas. So, and this is something that I just kind of been working on towards the latter part of the last school year, which is actually before spring break. And I've just kind of updated it since then. And there's nothing like having a great idea only to forget it later. And that's part of the great thing about Trello, is that I can just have things on here as I think about them, and add them on here. I have all of these little ideas. Notice that if you have a little box here, that means that is a description. What you can do is once you click on, for example, student onboarding, and you go to the description, you can enter in the text, and that will therefore put a little description icon right there. For student onboarding, these are the things that the student is responsible for that I need to get. As a teacher, I need to create Active Directory account, create a Google account, add them to Google Classroom, get them set up for BrainBench, get the SETI folders ready for them, and then what forms I need the student to complete. Now, unfortunately, Trello does not have any type of rich text formatting, so you have to use what I call markup language. And so I have to put 2 stars at the beginning and 2 stars at the end to bold this. And there are other markup languages out there. You can look that up. Just look up Trello formatting. You can do a Google search and it will give you the list of markup languages available. I'm not going to do that in this tutorial. But this is a classic example of how I would use this. And so when I have my workstation set up, these are the things that were based on last year. So that way, every year I wipe my machines. When my students log into the computer, I want my student to do all of these things at the very beginning of the year. And this is a great way of remembering what those things are and just kind of going step by step by step. So this is a program board. And the other thing about this is that you can add links. So what's great is I have the card here called budget. And then I had an end of the year budget that I was working on here in May, and you can link this. So if you have an attachment and you can use a Google Drive, you can use Dropbox, whatever it is, and you can link that directly into here to where you can quickly just click on it and it will open up and launch the program. So for example, if I go over here to operations and I click on my Mosby Tech Handbook, here are the couple of things that I have been considering, and then here in the description, and then I can just click right here without leaving Trello and have my handbook here to work on. That is really nice to kind of keep everything contained. I had already been working on my lesson plans for 2021, and I have a separate board just for that. You can move these lists to other boards. You can copy the list. So if you come up with a board that's kind of a rough draft or a brainstorming board, you can do that and then migrate those lists over to another board. But what I did on my lesson plan board for 2021 is, and this is going to be for multimedia and image management, I actually have modules set up. Now the reason why I do this is because this is how I have it set up on my website. So on my website, the lessons will be organized in this section. So 1.1, interface and workspace, documents and images, layers and artboards. So if I go over to my website, it's the same thing. I have 1.1, interface and workspace, documents and images, layers and artboards. It helped me transfer my ideas. I put my ideas here in Trello, and then once I kind of have it all kind of hashed out, then I go into my website and start building it. So for example, I'm going to go ahead and click on this card here. So I've got 1.1 interface and workspace, and then I have all of the subjects that I want to talk about, and kind of brainstorming. I do my brainstorming here in the description. You may not have custom fields. That's because this is a power-up, okay? Well, like I said before, on the free version, you get 1 power-up per board. And under the gold plan, you get, I believe, 3 power-up per board. And I have one called Custom Fields. And what it does, it just allows you to add things right here in the fields, and then it puts it on the front of the card. So, for example, if I were to add a comment, this is a new comment, all right? And I just go down here and click off. Now you'll see comment, this is a new comment, okay? And so that's one of the examples of a power-up. Once again, a power-up is just like an add-on for Trello. And you can get those by clicking on the Get More Power-Ups. And I have one for assignment called None. So the first card here, I know I don't have any assignment for the first lesson, but on the second assignment it says I have a quiz. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the second one here, 1.2 documents and images. And I just like the fact that I can kind of organize my ideas here, and I can apply any links that might be helpful for me or links I may actually use in the lesson. If I go back up here to 1.1, see all of the items here, and I compare that to what I have here on my website, and keep in mind this is a really rough draft for me on my website, you'll kind of see that the structure remains kind of the same. So this is just a way for me to really kind of compartmentalize my ideas and package them and get them ready for my students. And I just love the fact that you can move all of these things around. I have my module 1 here, and then I have module 2. And so if students were to go to module 2, you would see that the list here, once again, reflects what I have right here. Now, one of the things that's new to Trello that I want to show you that I really love is that sometimes in a list, I might have things at the bottom that I want to add. So these right here are just like what I like to call them applied projects. So these are just the regular lessons up here with all of the resources. And then the applied project is where I let the kids get a little bit more creative. And I added resources that were both mine and resources that were from other people. But I wanted to separate them. And so initially, you can just put a line, a series of dashed lines in the title, and it makes this little line here. But Trello recently just released this new thing called Cover. Now what happens with Cover is that it will allow you to add an image to the top of this, but more interesting to me, it allows you to add color. So now I can have a color box here, And I don't remember if I can just leave that blank. You have to put something in here. So I'm gonna go ahead and type in applied projects and then click off. But now I have a little color idea that helps me kind of separate these parts here. Okay. These are a little bit more established. As you can tell, we got numbers and everything, but all of this over here is really up for interpretation and really up for, I'm really kind of brainstorming here on these ideas. So for example, when I go way over here to graphic design, I really have a lot that I need to do, and I'm just putting the cards in here, and then later I can go in and start adding the details as they pop in my head or as I do more research on what I want to do. Now, one of the great things you can do is you can also bring in all of your learning competencies. So this is my learning competencies list for multimedia and image management. A strategy, especially if your school district is really into you being very, very specific on labeling all of your lessons and objectives, what you can do is that you can make these little objectives. I'm going to copy this. What you can do is make labels. So here's an example of this. I'm going to go up here to show more, and then I'm going to click dots, and I'm going to select labels. Now, I've already got some labels here, and let me just show you how these work. I have a ready label, in progress, AI, InDesign, and Photoshop. So how this works is, let me just close that, is that if you hover over a card or if you click on a card, you can apply a label to that card. So this will be Photoshop, and this lesson is in progress. It's not ready yet. Okay? And then you can kind of add these labels to all of it. If this one was a little bit different, which it is not, let's say this one was Adobe Illustrator and InDesign, and it is ready. It's not, but let's just, for an example, you can see that it is up here, okay? You can actually single click on these to hide the text if you don't want them, or you can click and show the labels on there. I prefer the text to be shown there. So you can see how this might be useful. And the great thing about this is that you don't have to click on the box. You can actually just hover over the box, type in L on your keyboard, and the label flyout menu will appear, and you can just apply the label. You can also create new labels here as well. The one thing that is a little irritating about labels is that you cannot organize them, you cannot rearrange them. They are in order of color. Trello basically sets the tone for this. So if you want something to be on the first label, it has to be green. But you can have multiple greens. So if I create a new label, and I selected a green, and I said almost ready, and hit create, it will put it in the list. Then it will go, I believe it goes in alphabetical order. So if I select green again, not ready, which would be a pointless tag, but now it will go in alphabetical order. So if you want to select one color, it will support sorting by alphabetical letters. So just keep that in mind if you're wanting to use these labels. So what I was saying about the objectives is this. What you could do, for example, is if I went over to my learning competencies and I highlighted this learning competency, which is number 1, maybe I want all of my learning competencies to be one color. So maybe I'll let it be this, this little teal color here, and I'm gonna paste it in. Gonna be a long one. All right. And then maybe I go to the next one. Okay, so now I've got 3 of my objectives or my competencies here in the list. And so now when I go through here, if I went real quickly, I could just label this with an L. I hovered over it, hit the L on my keyboard. I can say this is using scanning devices, and this is also demonstrating basic design principles. I might go down to this one, and you can just label these. So, and as I'm doing this, I would recommend that you just maybe abbreviate what this is. So don't give the long original definition, just abbreviate, shorten the content. So that's a way that you can use labels. I use labels to basically identify if it's Illustrator, Photoshop, InDesign, whatever it is. And then I also use labels with, for example, like if I am in my Sallisaw tech team board, so during the summer we got a lot of things we're working on, I might label certain things as am I waiting on approval, am I waiting on shipment, or am I assigning this to our student volunteer if that is his job. So labels are super, super helpful in kind of organizing your ideas. And one of the things that just really helped me is that I have a topic, project, and ideas list here of just things that I don't have assigned for anything, but maybe I saw a lesson online, or I got another idea from another teacher. And this is just great because, like this identity design lesson here. I saw a product when teachers pay teachers. I actually included an image to help me here. Whenever you add an image to a Trello card, it will make a cover. So I'm going to go ahead and click that back. And what it does is it adds an image here. That may be very beneficial to you. For me, I don't particularly like it, but I choose to remove the cover. And you can always bring it back, but just to let you know, that's how you can do that. But man, you have all these ideas floating around your head, and you just kind of want to bring them in and easily be able to access this information. I think that's what makes Trello really, really useful. That about wraps it up. Thanks again for watching this video, and feel free to contact me with any questions.